It's time for the Chips and Salsa Show.
The only show about Latinos for Latinos. And did we mention Latinos?
It's the Latísima.
Latinos come in all flavors, shapes, and sizes. You don't have to be Latino to enjoy chips and salsa.
Everybody loves chips and salsa.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Chips and Salsa. I am your host today with Nicole Mercado. Hello. And Don Jorge is not here today. He is out inspecting the polls, doing his civic duty, and we're so proud of him and we appreciate him. And we're super glad that my best friend, Nicole Mercado, who is a fellow PC of mine, is able to sit in with us today. And we have, as our guest, running for county treasurer, William Lichtsinn.
William Lichtsinn, CPA.
CPA, right, which is important to know because...
I'm the first CPA to run for Maricopa County Treasurer.
And that's incredible and also a little bit sad. But we're glad to have you running. I think that having an actual CPA running is pretty important. I think it says that we're taking it seriously.
Yeah, I totally agree. Absolutely.
Yes, and so we were talking to William earlier, and you mentioned that you're actually a native, born and raised here in Arizona.
I am. I was born over in the, actually first house was over just adjacent to kind of the Biltmore area, and then my folks moved to Arcadia when I was in grade school.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you know that being born, people always ask as soon as they come, where are you from? Because nobody thinks that you're actually born and raised here.
Yeah. My wife's, great-grandfather actually moved here in the 1890s.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Pretty cool.
So that's just like a unicorn there, like that you have, your wife is also born and raised.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's incredible. And then, of course, do you have children?
Yep, one son. He's almost 2.
Aw, that's awesome. What's his name?
William the Third.
Oh, that's very regal.
But
yes,
we, right? Yeah. But we nickname him Wit. W-H-I-T. Wit.
Wit.
Oh,
yeah.
cute.
That's really cute.
Thanks.
Does he know how to do math also really well?
Does he have an abacus?
We're working on like putting objects into other objects.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, maybe he'll run for county treasurer someday.
Maybe.
I know that when I saw you at the MCRC open house, somebody said that you were running for a county recorder, and you were like, no, stop, don't say that.
Yeah, there's enough folks in that race right now, and there's enough going on there that I want to stay over my lane, in the county treasurer lane. So
that's awesome.
Thanks.
I think that, like I said, I think that it blows my mind that we've never had a CPA, not in this office. Like what?
Yeah, I think that one of the important things that our county can do is, and my hope is that actually if, should I be elected, that our voters will actually keep the trend going of electing folks with the background that's appropriate for this role. Whether it's a CPA, certified financial advisor, financial planner, somebody who's been CFO of a company for 30 years, somebody with the relevant, appropriate professional background for the role. I think that's really important, and I hope that our voters can kind of keep that going down the line.
Do you think that being a CPA is what has given you like the ideas that you had to better the county as a whole?
I guess yes, kind of tangentially, right? More that my desire to run for this office in particular comes from just a love of where I live. I know that a lot of folks say that it gets a little bit redundant when you hear folks say that all the time, right? But it's true, and I think that's just this is an office where somebody with the appropriate skill set can have a big impact.
And what kind of things would you like to do with the office?
There are a number of things that I think we could do better. One thing I think we could do better is actually opening up our investment opportunities. I managed a portfolio for the state retirement system at a company I worked for. It was just a small piece of the state retirement system, but it was invested in different commercial real estate assets. And I think that it was generating a much better rate of return than our current county's portfolio. And I think that if those types of agencies of funds have the opportunity to be invested in things that give our our residents a better rate of return, then I think that we should be able to take advantage of similar opportunities.
Right, and you had mentioned last night when I saw you at an LD meeting, you mentioned something about purchasing debt.
Kind of, yeah. So the currently our county and many counties in many states across the country. I'm not certain whether or not it's all of them, but definitely a good number of them have the ability. So when somebody doesn't pay their property taxes, most folks have their property taxes paid through their mortgage company, right? But when folks don't pay their property taxes, or even businesses don't pay, then those start incurring interest at a rate of 16%. Now that's set by statute, so there's no flexibility there. But investors can purchase those liens. They bid down the rate of return that they're willing to accept. So if I'm willing to accept 5%, but you're willing to accept 4%, then you'll win that tax lien, and you get the 4% rate of return that you bid on, and the excess goes back to the state and back to the county. But I think that the investors in those liens should be limited to Arizona residents or Arizona-based businesses. Because if folks are making money here, I think we need to be sure that they're going to pay their taxes here, right? If they're going to make their money off of our citizens, our residents, then pay those taxes here.
And right now they're not. Other people are able to buy those.
Yeah.
So like someone from California could come in and purchase that debt, and then they don't have to pay when they get the money. They don't have to pay anything to Arizona.
Well, I'm not sure. Everybody's tax situation is different.
Okay.
Right. But I think that if we limited it to Arizona residents and Arizona-based businesses, we could ensure that tax revenue stays here.
Okay.
It wouldn't be a big hurdle in any way for a company just to register a subsidiary here. Just an LLC. It takes just minutes online, and you can have a subsidiary here, and then that income will flow up to your parent company. So it's not a big hurdle for anybody.
But I think anything that we could do to try and keep what we can here in Arizona is it's relatively, it should be relatively easy, and I just think that it's just a good policy decision for us, just a way we can improve on what's currently happening. And you made mention before of an issue with the assessor and then the current treasurer.
I did, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The county property tax lawsuit, I believe it's pronounced Kazmar, but I've heard it pronounced about 17 different ways. If you actually look at the name, it starts with a Q, and I must confess that the pronunciation eludes me, but because I've heard, like I said, I've heard it many different ways. But basically, in a very simplistic view, many properties are being incorrectly assessed, and I'm not going to say that was necessarily anybody's fault. It took a lawsuit, and it took the court to decide whether or not they were, and so I'm not going to say that anybody's to blame for that, right? If the court has to decide whether or not it's right or wrong, I mean, I can't, when you're in the process, like, is it right or wrong? I don't know, right? So I'm not going to say that that's anybody's fault. The problem is that there's a number of like school districts, community colleges, fire districts, right, that owe millions and millions of dollars back to the county treasurer's office because those funds were over-distributed. And some school districts are impacted more than others. I think, I want to say, and this is just off the top of my head, folks, so don't quote me on these numbers. I believe that's like Glendale School District. I think Glendale is they owe $600,000, something like that, right? And something that they can probably handle, probably absorb to some degree in their budget over the year. But say Scottsdale Unified School District at $27 million.
Wow.
Right? It's huge. Maricopa County Community Colleges, $45 million. That's, now we're talking big amounts of money.
Yeah.
Some fire districts, like the Arizona Fire and Medical Association, I believe it's $6 million. I think that's roughly like 10% of our budget. That's a lot. And really where I'm going with this is that I think that this issue could have been addressed. We've known about it for a long time. The figures went out to most most entities, most agencies affected back in December, January timeframe. We've had 6 months or so to address it, and I think that the problem could have been mitigated at a higher level rather than pushing it down to the community colleges, down to the school districts, and having them figure it out, potentially by raising secondary property tax on the residents to pay for it. You know, let's see. I know that Scottsdale Unified School District just had a vote on that just the other week, and they voted it down, and they're going to explore other options first before they decide to raise taxes on all their residents, on all the households. So, yeah, which I think is the appropriate decision, right? I talked to a couple of the folks on the school board there, and I think that they're making the right call. Maybe the right call is to raise property taxes for them to pay for it. Maybe I don't know. I can't say that I know the correct solution, but I can say that delaying an immediate knee-jerk reaction and investigating different ways to address the problem is probably a better way to go.
Right.
What about Roosevelt School District? Do you know anything about them?
Oh,
Because
I don't know
that's
them
the
off the
district
top of
we
my
live in. I mean, our kids don't go to public school, but we know that the schools in that district are not great, and so I'm sure they're getting a lot of money as well.
We can look it up. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know them all off the top of my head.
Yeah. Okay.
Usually if I go to, say, a LD, whatever meeting, right, I try to actually look ahead of time if I'm going to talk about it, because I want to see which school districts are affected, or which, if their fire district, if they have one, is affected, right? So I don't know them all off the top of my head. I know like the big ones. I think PV was 11 million, I think. Deer Valley is 15, or those could be flip-flopped, something like that. Those are the big ones, though, right? And then everything else is, I believe, less than that. So, but depending on the size of the district, it may be huge, right? If you have a $10 million budget and it's $2 million, that's enormous,
Right.
right? And if you have a $500 million budget and it's 10 million, well, it's not as
Quite
big
the
of a
same,
deal.
yeah.
So.
'Cause there are some school districts that are super small. Like we have Murphy in our LD, and it's
Oh, yeah.
just
There's like 3 people on the school board for that district, right?
yeah, it's
Okay,
really small.
that sounds familiar.
Yeah. So
I know there's some small, like some really small districts. I think there's I believe there's like 1 or 2 up towards Wickenburg that are like maybe 1 school, I think, or something like that. I'm not. That's more of a school superintendent question, right? I'm like, maybe I don't want to put my foot in my mouth here by saying something wrong. So
yeah, that's like our homeschools. Like we have, it's just the 2 of ours, right? Yes, we made up our own homeschool district just right now. Yeah. So, but we don't know anything. So
Yeah.
is it
don't
the
come
Chips and
after
Salsa
us.
district?
Yes.
Yes, that's what we just named it.
Yes.
Yep. It would seem with all of these budgets and everything that you're talking about, why wouldn't a CPA be the one in the job? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, what I try to impress upon a lot of people is that my licensure is evidence that I know what I'm doing, number one. But it also keeps me, it ensures that I have to execute the duties of the office to the best of my abilities. I mean, I'm professionally licensed. I'm accountable to not just the people, but also the Board of Accountancy. I have to maintain the standards of my profession,
Right.
if nothing else. So I'm kind of handcuffed to having to do a good job.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, I don't know that I would necessarily say that you must be a CPA, but I do like that what you just said. Like your profession makes you like you have I can't think of the word, but you just have like
Qualifications,
Credibility.
licensure,
Yeah.
credibility, accountability.
Yep.
accountability. There you go. He's not just an accountant; he's accountable.
There you go.
Exactly.
So if you had to for the normal person like myself, if you had to sum up your campaign or your why to vote for you, in maybe 2 or 3 points, what would be your elevator pitch?
Yeah, I mean, I think 2 points is actually perfect, right? I'm a former Navy officer. After school,
Thank you for your service.
Yes.
Thank you. After school, I received my commission, and I went and I did 2 Middle Eastern deployments, and then I actually served on a ship that was under construction, which was kind of interesting. The Navy doesn't really typically build their own ships. We have contractors do it, but I was in charge of making sure all the instructions, the manuals, the documents, the procedures, were all in place and all written and all accurate, because each ship's a little bit different, right? And so you have to make sure everything's accurate for your ship. and then also scheduling all the sailors that are going to be on my ship to go to different schools and learn about things. I was one of the engineering officers, and so some sailors they kind of know how to run a steam plant, steam engine, right? Or some know, but this was diesel, so maybe they need to go to diesel school, right? Or maybe they just need to go and learn about how to operate these particular diesels, right? Or this particular ship's electronic systems, right? So they would go to schools and learn about things, and I'd schedule them to go there and that kind of stuff, and more administrative stuff. But I think that they were, I don't know, whoever's in charge of assigning duty and signing tours is probably like, well, he did 2 deployments in 2.5 years. We'll put him at a desk job for a little bit, I guess. I don't know. That's all I can think of.
I like that, bossing people around. Sign me up for that one.
Were you ever in a submarine?
I have been on a submarine. I've been on 2 submarines.
Really?
Yeah.
That like the thought of that just scares me. Like I saw a commercial for them building submarines, and I was like, oh my gosh, it takes a special person to be able to live
I couldn't
in
breathe.
that kind of condition.
Yeah. I always thought about it. It was more of like confined quarters. Like everything was smaller, because on a regular ship, I was on the Boxer, right? It's a amphibious assault ship. The listeners might say it's a small helicopter aircraft carrier. Okay, but honestly, when you're on board that, we don't have windows.
Right.
We don't have portholes. It's not a cruise ship, right? So
Oh,
so
I thought
really,
it
I
was.
mean, it's
Wait, you're not playing
Shuffleboard?
You're not playing shuffleboard and ping pong?
but it's like it's not like you can look outside anyway.
Yeah.
It's just on a submarine. It's actually just tighter, and
Yeah.
you know you're underwater.
Oh yeah.
And you can't go outside. I could go outside if I wanted to, right? But inside, it's not. I don't think it was too different, other than
Oh.
just kind of more knowing that you were underwater. But that's
mental.
my opinion.
Yeah.
But
Cool.
and it doesn't
So you
rock
were-
back and forth.
You were
so.
on the submarine while it was submerged.
Oh, yeah.
Not just like you toured it, but like you.
Mhm. Yeah.
How long were you under?
Not long. I think I was on each one of them. I was on 2 different types. I went on a fast attack, and then then a ballistic missile submarine,
Ooh.
and 1 or 2 nights on each, just kind of opportunity to check them out.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, really, for me, it was almost a tour, but it was like a overnight or maybe 2-night tour. I can't remember if I was on them for 2 nights or 1. I think it was on 1 for 1 night and 1 for 2 nights, I think.
Oh nice.
But just kind of like an out and back, like left port and
Enough
kind of went
time.
around and then came back.
Yeah.
Yeah. A couple of us young guys, right when we were starting our careers, got the opportunity to go on board. There was maybe like 5 or 6 of us. Yeah,
cool.
It's kind of neat.
That is cool.
Yeah. And so back to your original question, though, 2 things. So 1, a record of service. I care a lot about our country and where we live. And then 2, professional qualifications. I said CPA.
Yeah.
And if I was like a CFA, Certified Financial Advisor, I could say the same thing. So professional qualifications. Yeah.
And if we have people here who like and appreciate the things you've said. They'd like to support you. How are you looking for support from the viewers?
Just vote for me. Tell all your friends. Tell your family. Tell everybody you know. Tell people at your school, work, church, whatever you do, your extracurricular activities. Tell them to vote for me. First CPA, run for Maricopa County Treasurer, and ideally first CPA as your county treasurer.
And you have a website?
I do, and it's completely unspellable. So.
Okay,
It's,
we'll put a comment and say link it.
Well, if anybody
you.
can see my sign, it's
that's right.
WilliamLicksinn.com.
Let me get it. Here we go.
William Licksinn, like Dixon with an L.
Yes.
Yes.
I remember.
Yeah.
Or Nixon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Easy way to pronounce it, Lixon. That's the easy way to pronounce it.
Licksinn.
But
But you don't spell it like that.
WilliamLicksinn.com.
Right. You don't. Yes.
Spell it like
What-
this, not how
Spell
it
it
sounds.
like this for
Yeah.
the website, but when you pronounce it, Licksinn.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, so we will be getting to our next guest. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And anyone who's interested, if you have any personal jeweler questions, I also happen to know that William has a hookup there. Is that correct?
Yeah, my father-in-law's a jeweler, so there's the shout out. I'm the number one salesman. He's retired. He still
Is
works
he William the First?
He is not. That's
no,
my
it's his
father-in-law.
father-in-law.
Okay. Sorry.
It'd be really a little weird if I was named after my father-in-law, but I mean, it's possible, I guess. But yeah, but yeah, I'm number one salesman. I'm also the only salesman because he's retired. But
Yes.
Nice.
but still number one.
It's like the what do you call it? Is it the hair club for men where they were like, I'm not just a customer, I'm also I'm not just the president, I'm also a customer. It's like
Yeah, one year I sold a couple of engagement rings to like some of my buddies. I mean, by I sold, I mean I'm like, hey, you should use my father-in-law. That's the sales pitch right there.
so that's awesome.
And then he got me like a T-shirt or something. He's like, number one salesman of the year. All right.
There you
Like,
go.
Only
So
salesman. What do you know?
you go to him for your accounting needs and your jeweling questions.
Diamonds and money.
Yes.
My two best
Money
friends.
and diamonds.
I'll be everybody's best
They're a
friend after
girl's
this.
best friend, yes. Okay. And so, Nicole,
Yes.
we haven't really got a chance to talk about it, but
Okay.
did you
How
watch?
hot it is in here?
No.
I'm sweaty.
Who isn't?
Yes.
About the debate, did you watch?
I
Or have you
watched,
seen clips
listen,
of-
I watched clips, and I watched the one where Joe Biden said that he beat Medicare, and then Donald Trump said, "Yep, he beat it to death." That was enough for me.
When he said that he beat Medicare, I was just thinking to myself of that meme where that guy's like, "You guys are fighting Medicare?" Like that's what I was thinking. What is he talking? But honestly, I had to completely watch the screen and look at his lips to try and understand what Biden was saying.
I truly
'Cause I
think that his
couldn't-
ads now are like AI. You know what I mean?
AI
like
mouths?
where AI mouths are like where they can like they say things and then it records it in that person's voice. Because there's no way that he says, "I'm Joe Biden and I approve this message" in one take.
No. Well, maybe it's like, when they're working with child actors sometimes and they just have to piece it together because
that.
I mean, I feel like it sounds so mocking too. And and we're laughing, but like, it's sad. It's not right. Like, I would never.
Elder abuse.
Yes, I would never
Yes.
let them treat my grandfather like that.
Great grandfather. Nope.
Great grandfather. No. It's not right. And I
No.
feel bad. I don't know what's up with his family. It's because they're not Latino. Latinos
His wife
wouldn't
is
do
power
that.
hungry, that's for sure.
Mm.
Yes.
Yes.
So, anyways, but wasn't she like his babysitter, or his kid's babysitter?
She's
She
his
was the nanny.
babysitter
She
now,
was the
is
nanny.
all I know.
No, she. Well, yeah, yes, but she was the kids' babysitter. So, creepy old man, even back then.
Yes.
Yep.
And so, like, now it's not his fault, but when he was in the know, it was creepy.
Yeah. Well.
And not right. Unsettling.
Okay, so what else can we talk about?
We can get ready to talk about our next guest.
Okay, sounds great.
So we're excited because we're going to have on right now, we have a husband and wife duo. So we have Erin Cooper, and she is the media surrogate for, and I'm not going to be able to say it, but it's Republican Hispanic Assembly. National Assembly. Yes. And I think I was talking to her about it before she started, and I was really excited for
Eric's giving
for
us all
her.
the hand signals, and I don't know
Yeah.
what they mean. So
That's
I'll
okay.
follow your lead.
Okay. So we're really excited to have Erin on, and we could talk to her. And then Erin is excited to introduce us to her husband, Kelly. And why is that, Erin?
Thank you. Well, it's Republican National Hispanic Assembly. I'm also the corresponding secretary for Mesa Republican Women.
Right.
And I'm so excited to introduce my husband because he is going to be the next congressman for CD4. He's an amazing father, a Marine, a husband, and Kelly Cooper. Here's your cue.
Well, thank
look
you
at
for
us
your
with-
service
I was
as
gonna say
well.
thank you for your service. Look at us with all the servicemen
I know.
today.
Well, thank
What a
you.
coincidence.
So how are we doing?
Great. I'm just
Good.
really excited to have you here.
So I remember doing the Chips and Salsa podcast 2 years ago
With Alice.
and had a blast. And so I'm excited to be back. I think we're gonna have a great time. We're gonna talk about some really important issues, and I think at the end of this, we're all gonna have a positive outlook on where we're going.
Yes.
Great, we need that because if you watch too much of the news, it's very depressing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, Let's talk about the positive points. Yes.
Jump right in.
Okay, so the first positive point is that we're almost at the end of the Biden administration, and it can only get better from here.
That's
I
correct.
mean, where we've come from, what we've gone through, and where we currently exist is pretty depressing. But as I said before, there really is only up to go from here. And when we elect President Trump and when we elect representatives that
When
are
you get
from
elected.
this district, that represent the people that they live in the district, understand the issues that we're facing, I think you'll see a completely different outlook. You'll see completely different policy coming out. And like for example, today, the Democrats in Washington are voting in lockstep against voter ID for federal ballots. What kind of common sense does this make?
Right.
And the logic for them is that it unduly burdens American citizens from voting. I don't know anybody that really has a problem pulling out their driver's license when they go to vote. In fact, when I just went and voted in person yesterday, I had to pull out my driver's license to show it. So why would we be voting against that?
Right.
I mean, you have to show an ID to get on an airplane. You have to show an ID to buy beer,
I was just say to buy
cigarettes,
alcohol, you get
to get food
carded.
stamps,
Mhm.
right?
Technically
You have to.
need a license to fish.
Yeah,
These
there you go.
Right.
So
We
why
have
not
all kinds
vote?
of-
One of the most important things we can do.
Well, and look, that's how we got here is people feeling like their vote doesn't matter, doesn't count, so they don't participate. In Congressional District 4, we had 80,000 people not vote last cycle. And whether it's because the machines weren't working or whatever other reason we might have, if those 80,000 people show up to vote, we have a completely different outcome. So voter participation matters on both sides of the aisle. And the more voters that participate, I think the better outcomes we have.
In CD4, you currently have a Democrat incumbent. Is that correct?
In CD4, we currently have the former mayor of Phoenix, Greg Stanton. He consistently votes along the same policy lines that he had as mayor, which were defunding the police. He's one of the original defund the police mayors. 2012, he froze police hiring, and we're still underwater from the Phoenix Police Department. He tried to turn Phoenix into a sanctuary city, and he continues to vote for those kind of policies today in Washington.
We have our current, where we live, the senator is also, or the congressman is also a Democrat, and it's the same.
Who do you have?
We unfortunately have Ruben Gallego.
Well, here's the positive on this one. You're not going to have him again.
That's correct. No matter what happens, we won't have Ruben Gallego anymore.
You know, it's funny because I watch Ruben's ads, and he's done a really good job portraying an image of himself as a Marine. He never does an ad. He never does a TV commercial. He never does a spot without first starting by saying, I'm a Marine. And while I can appreciate that because I also am a Marine, I think there are more qualifications that go into serving and representing people than just, I'm a Marine.
And I think that he definitely rests on that a lot.
Oh, absolutely. He wears the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor as if it were a cape. And some people may view Marines as superheroes. It's not the end all. It's not the only. There are a lot more qualifications that go into accurately and effectively representing the best interests of the people in your district. And mostly what I see from folks like him and Greg Stanton is they party line lockstep voting. Come back to the district and they tell you what you want to hear. They say, "Oh, I'm for this, I'm for that."
Up in Washington, it's a
rosy
different story.
sunshines and flowers, but the truth is, they're both voting in lockstep with Joe Biden, who doesn't know what he's voting for in the first place.
Right.
Wow.
And
What are some other? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, and those policies have, done everything they can to destroy our economy and inflation out of control, and these are the people that we have to thank for it.
We do. We have those people to thank for the direction of the country, and ultimately, the two biggest issues, is, as you both know, and my wife and I know, we have, a 9 and 10-year-old at home, 4th and 5th grader. It's security. It's both security at the border. It's security in our communities, highlighted by the fact that Greg Stanton is one of the original defund the police mayors. We also have a declining standard of living. And what I mean by that, because we can talk about inflation all day long, and I think it's important to address that. We're upwards of a cumulative 20+% inflation rate. And I can, from my restaurant ownership background and the things that I buy, I can talk about eggs and bacon and all the other things that we have. But the Democrats will the radical left will take pieces of the inflation numbers and they'll say, well, unemployment's way down, or well, we've created this many jobs, or well, the inflation rate's now down around 3%. Without consideration for the fact that the last 3.5 years, it's been a cumulative 20+%, costing the average person $12,000 to $13,000 a year. I didn't get a $12,000 or $13,000 a year raise. I'm assuming that none of the rest of us in this
As a
podcast
stay-at-home
did.
mom, did you?
No, I didn't.
I didn't. Okay.
So these policies are ruining our standard of living,
Yep.
and they're taking away from us what it was and what it is to pursue your happiness. We have to have policies and we have to have representatives that understand how to change these policies and bring about effective change. And my background as a multiple successful small business owner, military veterans that served overseas on many deployments, says, on an hour's notice being deployed to Cuba to guard their borders, being deployed to all of South and Central America, South Korea, Japan, coming back and sweat equitying into business and running small businesses, not through just the 2008 crash, but COVID as well, and being successful at those. Those are the type of qualifications that we need as somebody that's going to Washington to tell them, and really the lobbyists, because that's what happens. Most of these guys go up without qualifications, and a lobbyist says, hey, this is going to be great for your constituents. And they go, because I don't know any better. But with someone like me, I do know better. And when they put something in front of me that doesn't make sense from a profit and loss statements perspective or a cash flow statement or a security perspective, I'm going to tell them no. And I think we need more of that. We need more what you might call an America First agenda
I was
in
just
Washington.
gonna say,
Yeah.
so it sounds like mini Trump. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a businessman, and so I know what's logical, and I know what makes sense, and I know, as a businessman, and I don't mean this in like a selfish, horrible way, but you want to put your company first. You know what I mean? And
Well-
so, like, you expound that idea to Arizona, to America. Do you know what I mean? And it helps you set up.
So you
what's
have,
going on.
as a business owner, you have a responsibility not just to the business, but the people, that you work with. So I have people, I'm responsible for either the creation or support of hundreds of jobs, not just in Arizona, specifically in Congressional District 4. And that responsibility isn't just, my business. It's, I have a responsibility to make sure my business is successful so that these folks who are working with me are also successful. And not handling that appropriately doesn't just hurt me. It doesn't just hurt my business. It hurts those hundreds of people that rely on these small businesses. And I think most of the radical left not only don't understand it, they can't equate what it means to be responsible for other people. And so the decisions they make are completely devoid of that responsibility.
I've never really thought of it in that way, and the whole like external, internal customers that you have, because you're right. When you have, I don't own a restaurant, but I imagine you have your vendors and they're your customers. Then of course you have the people that come and eat the food and they're your customers, and then you have your employees that are also in a way your customers.
Yep.
And so I can see like the parallel of that for being a congressman. You know what I mean? Yes, you have these customers, but you have all these different customers that you have.
It is a lot to balance to come up with the most efficient and most effective decisions that requires and results in the best interest of all the parties involved. And I think, as I said earlier, a lot of folks that don't have that background and experience, when faced with legislation that they don't understand, they tend to rely on lobbyists. And those lobbyists aren't looking for your best interest. Those lobbyists are looking for the best interest of their clients.
Right.
Your representatives have the responsibility of taking your and the majority of the people in that district's best interest to heart.
Right.
And how can they do that if they don't understand it? How can they do it? How can they do it without living there? How can they do it without experiencing what it means to manage a budget? How can they do it without that background experience that you need to lean on to make good, solid decisions? Now, I believe in Reagan's 11th commandment, and so I won't, generally speaking, talk negatively about my opponents, but I will tell you, from the positive side, I am the only candidate in this race that has that broad swath or broad breadth of experience that you need in Washington to be able to fix the issues we're facing.
What are some other issues that you feel are important to address or that you're running on as well?
So the two biggest ones are security, both on the border and in your community, and it's standard of living, right? And you follow that down to an entire scroll that rolls out that door full of other issues, like anti-federalism when it comes to overreaching into our communities in policing, in education. Public education is an important piece of our community, and it matters, and the teachers matter, and all of those things matter, but a broad range of different choices, because each child is different, and what's in the best interest of that family needs to be available as well.
Right.
Having the police or having a federal government that says you can only have this program and this money if you do what I say, it's sort of like the mafia, isn't it? You'll have protection if you pay me. So the government's taking your money, and then they're giving it back to you with conditions that you do what they want.
Right.
It's really anti-American, all the way down to the core. And I think you see a lot of that. The government, the federal government, and really all governments tend to be like a self-licking lollipop, where they feed themselves more and more, and they grow based on the decisions that they make. And we need people that can say no. We need people that can rein in all of these different agencies that have grown unwieldy and make their own decisions. I mean, we've seen the Supreme Court decision to say, you don't have the right to tell people that they have to do this. That is the responsibility of Congress. We hold the power of the purse, and the reason for that, the reason for those separations of power is accountability, transparency, and making sure that the people are who's making the decisions and not the money.
Exactly. And Aaron, what do you have those same issues? I mean, sometimes as a mother, and I know you were mentioning your different areas that you touch on, what do you feel the same way, that those are the most issues for your...
I do, because earlier we were talking about how you homeschool. I too, our children go to a public charter school, and I would volunteer up to 35 hours a week there as a librarian. It is very important for me to make sure that they get what they need specifically, because they are my children, and I need to make sure that they get what they need. And yes, I absolutely agree with that.
And I think we touched on it just earlier, but I want to say, like, when we talked about standard of living and inflation, like, you know what it is to go to the grocery store and...
Or spend $51 at, like, Jimmy John's for 3 people. Yes, I do.
Yes. I went to the grocery store, and I dropped $100, and, like, I only filled out the little, like, where you put the baby in.
Yeah.
There was nothing in the big basket.
Sure.
There was nothing. And I spent $100. And I was like, what? This is like one dinner. And like, there's not, and I mean, yes, there's 6 of us, but it's unreal, and I feel like mothers are the ones who feel that and worry that, because you're the one doing the day in, day out, taking care of the kids and the shopping and the things like that.
Well, as a mother, I think that you should tell the story about why you got into Congress in the first place, because...
Well, yeah, so, as we're talking about the economy and standard of living, I think there's 3 really very, very clear points to be made. For me and my wife, we have 2 children, so family household of 4. We live in a modest 1,500 square foot house in Chandler. We have, normal vehicles. If I'm going to the grocery store, generally it's going to cost me over $400 for a week's worth of groceries nowadays. That was not the case 4 years ago. On the way, I'm going to have to stop at the gas station and spend over $100 on gas to fill up my truck. Was not that way 4 years ago.
Nope.
And then I'm going to get home to a cooled house that costs me over $300 a month to make sure that my house is livable. Also, not what it was 4 years ago. Now, what Aaron is referencing is how I originally got into politics, because this was never a thing for me. It was never, I want to go be a politician. I still consider myself not a politician, even though that's sort of the profession that I've chosen at this point. But it's not about being a politician. It's about making sure that our communities have what they need and the government gets out of their way. So we went through COVID. I'm a planner, so at the very beginning, the first case at ASU, I call my wife and I say, hey, let's make an appointment for the kids. We'll go get checked out at the pediatrician, and then we'll make our decisions. And we did that. Everybody was good. Nobody had the virus. Nobody was sick.
We've never had COVID.
I went to Amazon. I ordered paper towels and toilet paper, a couple cases of each, not a garage full like maybe some people did.
And then sell it for like $100 a roll.
Right.
I feel like you're speaking from experience, but okay.
No.
So when we finally went through our toilet paper reserve, I went to open up what was the next box, and it was paper towels. And so now I'm in the house, all paper towels. I go to the store, I stand in the Walmart line or the Fry's line, wherever it was, for them to roll out that one pallet of toilet paper, and you get to buy one, like, 6-pack. Ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And while I'm there, I'm thinking, well, I own businesses. I have to do this for the businesses. Who do I call? So I call my paper supplier, and the guy's like, yeah, I got a warehouse full of toilet paper. All the businesses are closed, so we can't sell it to anybody, or we aren't selling it to anybody because everybody's closed. Well, my restaurants are open. BKD's we stayed open through the entire thing, and we made to-go orders, and we tried to be part of the community, service the community. So I had him.
High five that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
And you put toilet paper and eggs in.
Yeah. So I went to work every day. I personally cooked to-go orders, and that toilet paper that I ordered from my vendor showed up, and we started giving it away. And really, the point was that we are part of the community. And I don't know how long I'm going to be closed. So all of these consumables, things that might go bad, they're not shelf stable, they're whatever we use to cook, I started offering it. Hey, do you have enough eggs at home? Do you have enough toilet paper? You know, you're coming to get a to-go order, but we're a community. So if you need something, here, take a roll of toilet paper. Take 2 rolls, whatever. We didn't even charge $100.
Aw.
We lost out. I was just kidding.
So we were giving that stuff away, and the point was we need community.
Yes.
We've always needed community, and that's one of the biggest downfalls of COVID is being isolated from your community. Mm-hmm. So I went home after a day of cooking, and I told my wife and my kids in Kennedy, who, if you come to some of our meetings, you'll see doing the...
She's the singer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Doing the national anthem or singing the pledge. And she said to me, and this is 2 years ago, so she'd have been between 7 and 8. She said, Daddy, it's not right. You shouldn't have to do that. And she's right. And that was the moment for me that I said our government isn't doing its job.
She has the Latina fire, so she said, what are you going to do about it? Exactly how it went down.
And so here we are, 3.5 years later, 4 years later, and we're trying to make a difference because I think it matters. The more people of genuine heart in politics, and not just chasing their own pocketbook, the better our representation gets. It's really hard to identify those people.
The authentic people?
You need somebody that doesn't want the power, that wants to keep the people in power.
Right.
To represent them and not take all the power for themselves.
Someone genuine, someone authentic.
Think about our founders. Most of those guys were business owners, whatever. A lot of them were young, 20 to 35. Most of them died bankrupt. Most of them died bankrupt. They sacrificed everything to make sure their communities had an environment that allowed for American exceptionalism or the American dream to prosper. And I believe in the same things, and that's why I've worked as hard as I have, because it's not about me. It's about my family, and by extension, every other family and generation in America. The American dream is being stolen from us, and it's being stolen by bad policy, and we require people that are genuine of heart, that understand it, and can restore that American dream. Not just for my kids, but people that are starting a family, or people on a fixed income. Everybody in every generation across America right now is struggling.
Yep.
And we have to have people that not only know it, see it, have a plan to rein it in. The wasteful spending in Washington has to go away, but are willing to fight. You will find no stronger fighter than a Marine, and that's what I plan on bringing.
And your value of family. I mean, it's very rare that you see the Coopers not running in a pack, meaning we usually have our children with us wherever we go because
I love that.
We were always that way before he decided he was going to run for Congress. That was extremely important to us, and it still is. So, I mean, if you go to any of our meetings or you'll see us around, usually we have our kids in tow, and they know that that's that's important. We're teaching our children. It's about family. It's about being genuine. It's about being authentic. It's about putting your, like he said, your community and the country first. It's about that, and so it's very, very real for us.
And I think that, that just shows that you are raising your children to be community-minded, civics-minded. And I know that we do the same thing. Last cycle, we were out there electioneering, and did we have all eight children with us? Was it 8 of them? Yeah. We had all 8 of our kids out there, and they're passing out when we went canvassing. Our kids were out there running up to the houses and dropping off door knocking with us. And, and because it's important for them to see our example. And
we're raising the next generation of political activists.
Exactly, so that they know that this is a part of your life.
Well, and, what she said and what you're saying, I think, puts a point on it. Freedom isn't free, and you hear that from a military's perspective all the time, but you have to have an electorate that's willing to work. If you don't care about your own freedoms, if you don't care about your own right to pursue happiness, then you are subject, and you will become subject. We have to teach our next generation, and we have to be more politically active, not because Democrats are bad or Republicans are great, but because good policy matters, and protecting freedom matters. And if we don't teach that it requires work to preserve those things,
our kids aren't going to want to work.
They're not going to want to work, and we're going to give it away.
And honestly, if you don't love your children enough to do the work and to teach them the work, who else does? No one loves them like you do.
No.
Yeah.
And so I really love that it was out of the mouths of babes that lit a fire under you. And I knew a couple companies that during COVID that we went and bought like huge industrial sacks of flour from, and then we just came with Ziploc bags, and every family took they took flour, they took sugar, they took whatever.
Everybody knew how to make bread at that time.
Remember when those hobbies all came back into popularity? Yeah. But that's important,
right? Let me put down my needlepoint. Yes.
But that's important. It's one of the greatest impacts that COVID had on all of us is isolation. And the more you come out and talk to each other, the more you help each other, the more we recognize bad policy and the more we can counteract them. It doesn't have to be, this person's evil. It's just this policy that this person is supporting is wrong. And you can see it. You can't lie to me and tell me I'm not paying $13,000 more a year. I know it. My wife knows it. We feel it every time we go to the store.
Yes.
So don't lie to me
right.
and try to pretend like none of the rest of us know, because we're all coming out as community now. We're all talking, and we all recognize that we're all facing the same things. So you don't get.
It's also important. It's also important. Education, giving resources to your kids, teaching them to look things up and decide for themselves.
Critical thinking.
Exactly. Of course, I want my husband to be elected to Congress, but at the same time, I teach my children. I'm going to give you this information about every candidate, and then you make a decision. It's very important to do that.
Definitely. So if the people today have listened to Kelly Cooper and they like what they heard, Kelly, do you have a website? Do you want to tell us how people can support you?
Sure, absolutely. So the website's kellycooperarizona.com. We're working very hard to make sure that we not only come through this primary, but that we're positioned well to oppose what I view of as very radical left policies supported by Greg Stanton. There are other candidates in this race. Scratch the surface and you will find the qualifications and background that I have far exceed all the rest and are exactly what we need to fix the policies that you're seeing today.
I wouldn't want to vote for someone if I didn't think that they felt they were exactly what was needed. So I'm glad to hear you say that. And so if people want to donate their time to, canvass, electioneer, or money, they can do that on your website?
Of course.
Okay, so that I'm glad to know that. And Aaron, do you have any last words that you want to make sure people know about Kelly?
Just that he is the right candidate for the job. You can do your research my husband. You can research me and my family, and we're the genuine deal. We're the real thing. So what you see is what you get with us. And you definitely want to make sure that Kelly wins.
Okay.
And thank you for having us so much.
Oh, yes, I'm so glad that you guys could make it, and especially both of you, because we do have, some politicians on the show, but there's nothing like having the wife to keep them on the straight and narrow. So
That's right.
thank you. We'll see you guys next time. We will have, I know we have Ellen Skillicorn, not sure who else, but we'll have some guests for you, and thanks everyone for joining us. Bye.